everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations with a wedding-themed scrapbook layout. One of my goals this year was to use up a few items that have been collecting in my craft room, which means that I need to get a little creative. Today I'm going to share how I combined Valentine perspectives with Christmas dies and spring pattern papers on a wedding layout. I don't take many Valentine's Day photos, but I do have quite a few photos of this lovely couple that the February Foxbox perspectives are perfect for. This photo was taken at a wedding where he was a groomsman, so I've dug out an older Cartabella collection to use on this page. I want to use a few of those lovely acrylics that will be arriving in the February Foxbox. I know I want to use that adorable title. I like the frosted elements and the red envelopes and some of those hearts in there. Since this photo was taken at a wedding, I've also grabbed the sheet of wedding paper snips. There are a few phrases on here that I can use. As I create this page, I'll be grabbing a few other items from my collection, and I'll make sure to add a list of those supplies in the description below. I'm going to be using this gray-brown chalkboard type background with a gray pattern stripe in the center. I want to add some layers of paper and some texture to this page, so I'm going to lay some pattern papers above and below that gray layer, and then I want to place a little bit of lace along each of the sides. I have a few types of rickrack borders here that I'm debating on. I do like that wider lace, but it feels a bit unfinished on the edge. I did bring in a red color that would match her dress, but it is really bold and it doesn't match exactly, so it's kind of drawing your eye away from the photo. I think I like this one that has the scallop edge because it creates a finished border on the side and it gives this page an elegant feel. I'm going to go off camera and stitch these together before I add them to the page. Before I stitched that lace on the gray pattern, I distressed it a bit with scissors. I'm going to do the same with those other pattern papers that I'm going to add, and then I'm going to tear them a bit and shape and mold the edges with my fingers. I have dampened the edges with some water just to make it easier to fold the paper. The water not only softens the fibers, it also helps the paper to keep its shape once it dries. I'm going to go ahead and tack these paper strips down at the top and the bottom of that larger piece of gray paper, and then I'll finish some folding and rolling of the patterns just until I get the right look for the page. In the upper right corner, I have laid my photo onto some darker cardstock, and I'm working on putting together some layers for the title. I want to use that adorable perspective, but it doesn't quite stand out alone on the gray pattern paper, so I cut apart a few pocket cards from my cut apart sheet, and I layered them together. I'm also going to cut out a heart image from a third pocket card, and I'll just layer that underneath the title. Now, I didn't get too detailed with the fussy cutting because I know I'll be adding some other layers over this heart. I just want to be able to place it on the page to really help that title stand out. To frame this page a little bit better, I am going to add some patterned paper strips across the top of a page. I have chosen a lighter gray pattern and a peach pattern to finish this off. Before I adhere everything down, I want to add a little bit of texture paste around some of the edges. There's really no technique to this, just a few swishes of paste here and there. Now you probably noticed that big hole in the center and my light is shining right there. I am sorry that I forgot to shut off that overhead light. The hole is there because I wanted to use this pattern paper as the frame around the photo, so I went ahead and cut out that little rectangle where it wouldn't be noticed. I'm going to let this modeling paste dry and then I'll adhere all of my elements in place. Off camera, I adhered those larger paper patterns and attached the photo to the frame. I did punch a little hole above the photo for some ribbon, and I added some stitching across the top of that frame. Next to the photo, I'm going to create a floral cluster. The larger floral element was cut from a pattern paper in the collection, and the smaller one is a sticker that came with the paper collection. The rest of the items were cut using a Christmas die set, which had a poinsettia, some pine boughs, and holly. Even though that die set was a holiday collection, those dies are still great floral pieces that I can use all year long. Next to that photo, I tucked a little phrase that I cut from the wedding paper snip sheet. I cut the floral pieces from cardstock and paper that matched his rose boutonniere, her dress, and some of the other items on the page. If you're worried that your white cardstock isn't matching the white that you're using in the paper collection, just use some white parts from a pocket card. The texture and the color of that white will match all of your other elements perfectly. To the left of the photo, I adhered that horizontal paper and wood grain heart that I cut from those pocket cards. Before I adhere the perspective in place, I want to add the word together. These are sticker letters that I adhered directly onto some foam tape. I used the edge of the foam tape to help me keep those letters straight and level. The black and white letters contrast well with that acrylic title, and the font matches the ones that I have on the paper snips. Below the title, I'm going to add a journaling card. Now there is quite a bit of space between the title and where I want this card to go, so I've cut out a few little labels and I'm placing them in this area. As I adhere these elements in place, I would love it if you took a few moments to hit that subscribe or thumbs up icon and let me know in the comments what part of the project inspired you today. To finish off this area, I have a sticker that says Best Day, and I'm going to add 2 more clusters of florals. Those larger flowers are cut from the pattern paper, and the rest were created using some dies. When I create floral clusters like this, I try to mix shapes and sizes of florals. I also like to try to create visual triangles with the other floral clusters. In the first cluster I created, I had some larger white florals, the red rosebuds, and some tan floral leaves. In that lower cluster, I added another set of rosebuds, some tan leaves to match the tan florals, and smaller white flowers. Near the title, I added another cutout piece, a single rosebud, a large white flower, and a set of tan leaves. At this point, I have added some Christmas items, wedding items, and Valentine items to this layout. All of these are holiday-themed items that I was able to put on a non-holiday page. After all the florals were in place, I adhered the perspective to the page. I used liquid adhesive to hold this in place so that it would attach well to the layers. To fill in some space below the title, I added another little paper snip from the wedding sheet that says photographs, and then I decided that I needed to bring a little bit more to the page. So from my Bramble Fox collection, I grabbed a single arrow and placed it near the title. I also added a few hearts to the page. I placed a white heart near the title to finish that off, and an outline heart up near the photo. At the base of the page, I added a little butterfly. Now, I did fiddle around with another outline heart, but decided instead to add a smaller one up near the photo to help create some diagonal flow across the page. The last element I added was a little flag that I cut out from a pattern paper sheet. I added some zigzag stitching across the top before I adhered this in place. To match the other distressing on the page, I roughed up the edges of this flag with a sanding block. I'm going to finish this page up and add a few more items to the layout, and then I'll share the completed page with you. Here is the wedding themed layout I created today. I added some stitching to the top of the page and some ribbon above the photo. I also adhered some gray pearls to the page to bring more of that color to the layout and add to that wedding theme. I didn't add the journaling to this page because it's going to be added to an album for my daughter, and I want her to be able to add her own story. Rarely do I keep any of the scrapbook layouts I make. I enjoy creating them and gifting them to the people who are in the photos, so often the journaling spaces are blank. Now I'm going to share a few close-ups of this layout so that you can see all of the lovely details. This page was created using a mix of wedding, Valentine, Christmas, and spring elements, and I love how it came together. I especially love the mix of textures with the acrylic perspectives, watercolor florals, stitching, paste, and lace. That darker background brings out all of those lovely items and makes the photo the focal point of the page. If you are one who enjoys pinning projects to inspiration boards, I have added these photos to my website and to the Bramble Fox Friends group for you to save. I want to thank you again for joining me as I created another scrapbook layout and shared this memory with you. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies listed in the description below, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.